on to the next one. It was the Warriors 22 defeating your boys 14. Now, I did do you a bit of justice here. You did go 13 plus to the Cowboys. I didn't know why, because I never asked you that question, because I didn't read it until I actually was live on the podcast, and I was like, holy shit, it actually says 13 plus Warriors, not Cowboys. So was this purely around the home ground advantage? Is that what you were going for? Is that
you touched on it in the preview, that it was just basically based on whoever was the home team I thought would have the upper advantage here, and quietly showed with the Warriors having that home crowd buzzing and alive behind them. I think this is a different game if it was held in Townsville. Not to say that we would do any better, but home ground support does help, and I'm pretty impressed with our guys, how we went out. Like, you look at 7 errors, 85% completion rate. Just our discipline needs to be finely tuned. And as I was saying to another Cowboys fan, I think this time last year we only had like our first or second team list change with the injuries and suspensions that we had last year compared to this year. And this, we're missing big name players. Like, we had Ruben Cotter go out for a while. We had, Scotty Drinkwater spend some time on the sideline. We had Peter who also spent some time on the sideline. Got Jordan McLean, James Talmo. We got Big Lucci still on the sidelines. So he had all those blokes back, and I think we become a better, more disciplined side across the whole park. So I don't think we've had our best 13 run out as a whole yet. So just hopefully it comes all together, and we've got through all this mess, and we're still putting on points. Like, we're still putting on 14 points here, but discipline, as I said, it needs to be tuned, because 22 points is not good to be leaking through. And if it wasn't for the Tigers, we'd be last right now.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you can't take too much away from what the Warriors are doing. I think, like we've said in previous episodes, we're all on it. We're all on this Wars bandwagon where if they're not playing against our team, we want them to get those 2 points. And
for sure.
Listening to Fittler talk on TV just earlier, he was saying it's starting to get back to you play over in Mount Smart. It's darker. Like, you can barely see what's going on. You've got these crazy fans giving you all this abuse from the sideline, all this energy from the sideline. And he goes, it's not even a packed out crowd. And it's starting to get back to where you go, oh, shit, we've got to go to the Warriors and play them for 80 minutes. So it's good for them to have that crowd. They're pumping, they're flying, they're sitting equal second. And, mate, that is absolutely brilliant. I just hope they can sustain it for the whole season and play finals football, because that's what those fans deserve after all they gave up to keep the NRL running. But I did have nil injuries here, but obviously this was made prior to the news about Tamalalo getting injured. But you did mention about how you do have players out injured. You've now got Tamalalo 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. So that kind of adds back to your thing where you were saying you're not having your constant best 13. And yes, I can sit here and I can say, the Roosters had it last year, the Cowboys didn't, but you say it year in, year out, the team that can stay fit, the team that can defend, are the teams that win premierships. And I guess Tamalalo is on $1 million, or he was on $1 million. He's close to $1 million still. What do you make of this injury? Is this something where you start having a chat like, shit, we need to sign some youngsters at depth. We need to make sure we're ready once he does move on from his contract. Like, what do you make of this injury, and how much of an impact do you think it has on the Cowboys?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking up at it now. He's on $950 at the moment until 2027. So that's 5 years away. So we're halfway through the of that 10-year contract. Hasn't paid dividends just yet, but we're seeing an improvement. You touched on it. Like, you got to have the team that has the least amount of changes to it. Not usually does all right across the whole park. Like, I quickly just look it up. Jordan McLean is apparently coming back in round 8 from hamstring. We've got another one with a hamstring in round 8. Helam Lukey, hamstring round 10. Big Lucci, he's been stood down. Not sure when he's coming back. Being back. Griffin Namey, he's got a throat problem round 15. And James Talmo, who's got a foot and not sure when he's coming back. And now you're touching on Big JT coming out, being out for 6 weeks. It's a big squad. A big bunch of a big chunk of your squad missing with experienced players there. As I said, the team, you look at the Warriors, you look at Brisbane, you look at Penrith. These 3 teams this year have been really unchanged in the most parts. They might have to change one player here, there, for a week, and then it might not be touched ever again. But that's why they're running so high. And like you said, teams that stay healthy usually do all right.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, it's great to see the Warriors doing well. It's great to see if they've only had these injuries that might be 1 to 2 weeks, because I do fear if they lose a big playmaker like a Sean Johnson for 4 to 5 weeks, how they're going to fare. Now, I think in years past, I would have been a lot more worried about them, but I think Webster has those systems in place where now if they were to lose a big name player for a few weeks, whoever comes in, as long as they fall into that system, they're going to be okay and they're going to be able to get through. So I think that's where we're starting to see the most improvement in this Warriors squad, is that they're kind of starting to adapt that next man up mentality. Obviously, Shans was out last week. Someone stepped up, took his spot. Freddie Lussick came in this week. You've had Curran out with concussions. You've had all these players out, but they're slowly having that next man up mentality. So, it's good to see. But obviously, the Dally M's, before we move on, you've got 6 points to Walker, 3 points to Shans, 2 points for SJ, and 1 point for Josh Curran. So, an absolute sweep there from the Warriors. I thought maybe there could have been some points, maybe 1 point here, 1 point there, go to some of the Cowboys side, but it was a side, a resilient Warriors defense, and then obviously an attack, they got the job done. So fair play to them. But